I'm ready.
Hello and welcome.
Mark Hudson. I met Mark after I'd sold my company to Business Objects, and then Mark sold his company to Business Objects several years later. And Business Objects then became SAP a number of years after that. He got acquired too. So Mark and I were like, best buddies from the first time we met. Just got on really well, and we often talked about joining forces and doing something. And Mark's been an advisor to me over the kind of 2 years prior to the launch of Deckible, just kind of listening and seeing and giving me feedback on what I was doing. And in fact, it was Mark that introduced me to the development team that built the first versions of Deckible. And as we've gone down this process, we have all joined forces as a team of four to build and take this product forward. So we have all between us built many products and taken many products to market. So I think this is very exciting. So market update. Our website is just mature. Everything is maturing. If you haven't linked from your website on your web page where your Deckible is, where your printed Deckible is listed, please do so. Please link to your deck on Deckible. Those links from every creator matter because they add up. When we have 500 and thousands of those, Google sees us as more influential, and then all of our content will rise, right? And we're seeing that happening. There is just a steady influx of more and more traffic to Deckible every day. And that's only going to get better because as we add more decks and as more people link back to Deckible, it just gets better from there. So I think this idea of an overnight success, I love it. It takes a lifetime to make an overnight success. And Deckible is proof of that. I knew that to be true because I'd done it before with Listly, but it's kind of fun. And I just want to tell you a story. You probably heard this before, but my story was I did not want to go to digital music. I bought my albums, I bought my cassettes. I'd recorded a bunch of stuff on cassettes. I bought cassettes, I bought CDs, and then I was very slow to move to Spotify to actually accept a digital format. Why am I going to buy all this stuff again? And eventually I just gave in because it's too hard to fight it, because there are these just little features that come out of a digital platform that make it almost impossible to resist the tide. And that's where I got to. I just gave up because I was like, oh, well, the playlists are pretty cool. Oh, I can have different music from different bands anywhere. I can make a radio station on any song or band. Oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm in, right? And everyone, the younger generation are all thinking about digital first. They only think about a digital world. Spotify, their music, their books, their movies are all digital. So I mention this, I'd say this because there's still a bunch of creators out there, which then there will continue to be, and that's just wonderful. But there are creators who are resistant to digital because their whole card deck history is entrenched in paper. I love paper, but it's just fun to recognize and see that transition. And I just see it as inevitable because if I look at every other tech trend has happened, and card decks are the last thing to go digital. And they're harder to go digital because they're not just it's the deck, the experience, and the guidebook. So it's challenging, but we're there.
I've got to
So
say,
yeah.
Nick, you make me laugh with your CDs and your cassette tapes, because when I got Spotify, it's like it's so easy to have every music that you want at your fingertips. And it's the same thing with the card decks, right? You get to have,
Right.
50 decks, in your phone and remember when you were driving in the car and you want to change CDs and you've got to find them.
Right.
And I
Right.
was at a concert recently and people were selling CDs, and I'm like, I have nothing to play a
Right.
CD in, but I wanted to support the artist. But I was like, take my money, but don't give me a CD. I'll just listen on
Right.
Spotify.
I'll buy t-shirts. That's what I'm buying. So yeah. So and this is the early adopter. This is the classic new technology adopter curve. And I always ask people, well, how long did it take you to go and stay in an Airbnb, to drive an Uber, drive in an Uber, perhaps drive an Uber too, because you can do that. To buy from Etsy, to buy from Amazon, to adopt Netflix. Everybody is different, right? And there's nothing wrong with being early or late. Just recognize that we are all early adopters. We're innovators. We're right at the beginning of digital card decks. And what's phenomenal is there's so much potential here because card decks are the medium for the phone, right? This thing is phone it's card deck sized, it's card deck shaped, it's got rounded corners, and and now it can have and act like a card deck. So we just see card decks as a medium, as a place to interact with any kind of content fits on the phone. It's a phone-sized medium, and you're going to hear more and more about from that over time. But I just kind of driving home the point that resistance is your enemy, and don't use your own lens. I mean, you guys, everyone that's here right now is I think is already on Deckible with decks, but so the cool thing, we've passed the 500 deck mark. Gosh, I can think back to when we did 50, or getting to 10 decks was challenging. 50 was, still a lot of hard work. 100 became totally manageable. And then we suddenly, before I could blink, we were at 250 and now at 500. And I'm putting a fraction of the effort into new deck recruitment that I used to, because I'm putting more of my effort into kind of nurturing and managing the existing creators. But it's just happening. I wake up some mornings and there's 3 decks for me to approve that I've never, from creators that I've never heard of, because they found the way to Deckible. They didn't want to have a conversation with me. They're more than welcome to, but they don't need to. They can sign up at Deckible, watch the video and upload their deck, and they have been doing. And there are some stunning decks where that's happened. So I'm very motivated about this. I honestly have a hunch in my head that 1,000 decks is a magical tipping point. And it's a magical tipping point for having a a subscription model, because at 1,000 decks, anyone can turn up, and there's enough decks on there for people to get a deck a month, right? And at 1,000 decks, it'll just keep growing. But there's so many other reasons. So there are a lot of people who will stand back and go, how big's Deckible? Who's heard of it? But when we just say there's 1,000 decks on, they're like, whoa, because there comes a point where if that deck number is big enough, you can find any deck you need to solve any problem you want to solve. It's already on Deckible. Other decks, they won't necessarily go looking for, because they'll be in a digital domain. So, we're definitely motivated by that volume, and it's getting easier and easier. And part of the reason for this is, card deck course creators, and Ayesha's one of those. Obviously, there's many of them, and all these people are supporting Deckible, and that's what's critical. Is we have a grassroots momentum behind these people and more, who are supporting Deckible, because it supports their course strategy. It gets people to be able to create a deck without having to fund printing it, and without having to fund shipping it. And it also means people can create 5 decks without having to think about financing 5 print runs. Because we all know, if you want to get a deck for a decent price point, you have to print 1,000 or 10,000 copies, and that, when you make 5 or 10 decks, is a drain. But it's not with Deckible, because there is 0 listing fee, 0 monthly fee, and you can see which deck sells better than others, and grow from there and learn from it. So 3 wonderful stories here. Michelle began with 1 deck. She's with Schiffer. She's got 4 decks. And her first quote to me was, I don't think I'll use this very much. And next quote was, I think I'm going to use this quite a lot. I really like it. And it's like, you don't know what a digital deck platform is until you start using it. And her response as soon as she started was she was really enjoying it. And so she's now loaded all her decks. She's actually introduced us to Schiffer. Chris is kind of similar. Chris has the Message of Love Oracle deck. She's done a magical job. That is the most shared deck on TikTok, period, no contest. And Chris came with 1 deck to Deckible, and now she's loaded all 7 of her decks. She's also introduced us to Rebel Deck, who's loading her decks this month. Deborah, has been with US Games for 27 years. Super awesome. She jumped onto Deckible along with her next door neighbor, and who's also got an amazing card deck. And she had so many questions and so much resistance and caution about Deckible. But we've basically worked with her, and every single one of those points that she's raised have been solved, right? So now she's at the point, okay, I'm now, when we launched Deckible with trials, that was our last question. Can people trial my deck? And you'll learn about that today. She's wholeheartedly fully into sharing Deckible with her community. And we've had that with hundreds of creators. Everyone's got at a different point of willing to share. And that's why I've consciously focused on nurturing creators rather than acquiring more. But I think we're getting to the point where we can really go to town and reach that 1,000 really fast. So Oh, and by the way, if anyone on the call today knows of a creator who should be on Deckible and isn't, right? If you know someone that has a deck or has a book that should be a deck or a course that should be a deck, we would really truly appreciate an introduction to those people, because that's how Deckable's got here, right, to this point, because of our reputation. I was on a call this week and someone said to me, I got some, like, she gave me like 10 really challenging questions, and then she said, well, by the way, you do have an amazing reputation. Right? So she was challenging but also appreciating where we were. So we've moved forward so far. It's very supportive, and I feel very blessed and grateful to be in at this point. These cards are what I call meet meme cards, and you can make these cards from your deck with 3 clicks. You literally have to pick 3 colors: the outer color, the inner ring, and then the inner color. And it takes your bio photo, your deck image, and then you can actually make this artwork. I made these by hand when we launched the product, and it was so laborious I quit doing it. But now I've automated it, and so it's fun and everyone can have it. And these are just fun, almost better business cards to give out for you, right? They have you and your deck on it. You've got the QR code to your deck. You've got your name, your tagline, your deck's tagline. It's very, very simple and it's fun. My question to everyone is, have you tried collages? I hope you have. And if you haven't, well, I'll get to show you that today. But collages are a ridiculously fun and simple way with Deckible to arrange your artwork. And we can do circles, we can do fans, we can spell letters, we can spell out the whole alphabet. And the reason we made this, because I was spending an incredible amount of time finding and arranging people's artwork to promote decks. And I just knew if I was having that problem, so were all the creators. And so now it's fully automated, it's really slick, and a lot of people are really using it. So I'm really glad we made that choice. It took us a few releases to get it to be good enough, but it's definitely there now. So if we get time at the end, I can zoom in and do a demo of that. But literally in 1 click, you can produce that peacock look. You can reload it again with a different set of images, right? So you never need to share the same image twice of your deck through your social channels because of Deckible. This is another kind of momentum thing, right? Insight Timer, I don't know if you know, but Insight Timer, it's pretty big, has 17,000 teachers on Insight Timer. 4 of them have found their way to Deckible, and they're really passionate about it. In fact, the number's grown since then. I know there's more. And it wasn't an intentional thing, but they're bringing them to Deckible because they can put their meditation, their audio tracks, they can have their artwork, and it's kind of cool. I'm very excited about it. It wasn't intentional on our behalf, but it's just sort of happened by accident. But we're really going to support that, and as we get better and better and go deeper and deeper into this space. This is a really cool deck based on the feel wheel, which is the emotional wheel. I'm sure you've all seen that. If not, you can Google feel wheel or emotional wheel, and it's basically a way of categorizing emotions into 5, 6, 7 segments, something like that. And we've made a deck on Deckible with this using circles, and these circles are transparent, so I can take confused and pinch and zoom to make it bigger and smaller. So then I dragged in buried and I made that slightly smaller, and you can see I just make a Venn diagram picture of how I feel. It makes it so much fun to express yourself visually, and that's a deck of Deckible. So if anyone's interested in that, just send me a note, and I'll send you, or I can probably drop it in the chat if someone reminds me later. I can give out a free coupon to get early access to that deck. And we're not finished with it. We haven't rushed to publish it. We've got some big ideas of what we'll do with it, but I'm more than willing to give away copies to people in the interim. Second thing, oh my God, this is so cool. There's a website out there called deckaholic.com. And a lady called Stephanie Goya, and I've reached out to Stephanie. I've watched. She has some amazing videos, and she explains in the videos the different ways that you use card decks. And she was the one that coined the term randomizers and sense makers. And we've basically just taken her work and built on it, and we've come up with 21 different ways that people use card decks. And this is a card deck on Deckible. This isn't released yet. It's our plan to release this deck with the next release of Deckible, which I believe is going to be the 1st of December. I think we're going to launch Deckible, hopefully, at the Auto Loco summit on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December, and this deck will be included. What is exceptional about this deck is it's based on using transparency. So here we go. Jumped out of order there. So this is these are examples of the cards in Deckible. So you see that shuffle card? That is transparent. You can actually pinch and zoom it in Deckible and stack it over the top of other things. All these cards are not just the classic rectangular shape. And what this does when you use it in the context of Deckible is it makes Deckible into a wonderful storytelling platform. You can create vision boards and collage things. You can actually have decks of photo objects of things that you would make a vision board from. So, and I've talked about this, but the lack of a good example meant that no one's actually created a deck like this to this point. So I was scheming with Roger, who's the illustrator that made this deck. And if you don't know Roger, he's really awesome. And he's probably designed 6 decks for people on Deckible so far. Very creative guy, so totally worth hiring if you have a project in mind. But this deck is just phenomenal. I'm very excited. And wherever you see white space, and even in the quadrant and the grid cards, which, I mean, I'm going to go into more detail, and we're going to create so much more content behind this. But the squares in the grid and the quadrant card are transparent, so you can actually see things through them. It's just fun. It's just fun. Very exciting. And basically randomizers, this is every different way that you can randomize and choose and brings cards together. Sense makers is how you actually add meaning or interpret meaning from any card, and there's different ways to use that. Reflectors are just how you look back and think and reflect and journal and ponder upon things, and there's different combinations of those three skills or three components. Going back, I missed a slide there. So on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December, Deckible is the sponsor of the Otoloco, which stands for Oracle and Tarot Lovers Conference. And not only are we sponsors, but I'm also the keynote. There are 21 grassroots speakers who basically live and breathe tarot, and will be sharing their expertise. Some of these people are illustrators, card deck creators, coaches, tarot readers, all sorts of things. And what I love about this story is 3 of the creators in the 21 were already on Deckible. And I think it was those guys that actually pushed Isaiah to reach out to us, and we reached out, and Isaiah is wonderful. We've had some great conversations, and now there's probably going to be another 4 or 5 of the community that are on Deckible too, because I've already loaded 2 more decks for the Otolo community, and there's more coming. So that's very exciting, and that's 3 days, free to attend. So register at otoloco.heysummit.com, and also just going to ask you to share this with your community and have your community share it with theirs, because I think this is going to be a big thing for Deckible and beyond. So yeah, showing you that. And then one of the things that we may not all realize is we are creating a category, right? Digital card decks. We haven't just digitized a card deck. We've basically created an experience on the phone. And every time you build a deck on Deckible, you are now designing and creating an experience for your customers. It's that combination of how you move the cards around, what instructions you give them, how you integrate journaling, etc. And that's an experience. So in creating that, we're recognizing, because this is a new category, that we need to teach our creators to tell people why decks are important, because that's the building block, because not everyone understands what decks are. My perception, my interpretation is that something like only 5% of the world uses card decks today. And our view is we can 10x that by taking decks to more people, because decks are hard to find, hard to understand. And Deckible's mission here is to simplify and make decks more accessible to more people. And so there's a lot of teaching involved, but we are creating a category, and we're doing that together in conjunction with our creators, right? So, and this is a big shift forward, is that, on Deckible right now, there are 18 genres of card deck, and we've simplified it down here to 7 super segments. So with this visual or variations of this, we've broken down all the different types of card decks into 7 segments. So it makes it easier to see, oh my God, yes, all these types of card decks exist. And then within each of these segments, there's many sub-segments, and we now we're in the process of really supporting all these different sub-segments in Deckible as well. And all of this improves our search abilities, SEO ability, but it also makes it easier to communicate. So these 7 segments I think are really valuable, and you're going to see product changes to reflect that in the product. So as people turn up to Deckible, they will be asked what are they interested in, and then they'll be shown decks that fit those categories, right? Whereas at the moment you turn up to Deckible and you can see and explore everything. Here you'll be able to say, oh, I'm just into tarot, I don't care about the other stuff. Someone else could say, oh, I'm just into, you know, workplace and strategy and tarot, and then it would just show you that stuff. So we think that's a big step forward. And I'm not going to show you all 7 categories, but here's some of the decks from the workplace and strategy segment. There's some great decks here. And the tarot and oracle, we obviously have a great depth of quality content here. And here's just some of the decks in that category. And then wellness and therapy. We have some amazing decks in the wellness and therapy genre. And the cool thing is it's not just us that are seeing how big decks are. Esther Perel, you may have heard of her. She's a very famous sex therapist, and she's got an amazing TED Talk. Mark Groves is probably, you know, he's got 1 million followers on Instagram, relationship specialist. He's produced an amazing deck. And Stephen Bartlett, who is, you know, he's on Dragon's Den in the UK. He's got all sorts of ventures, blah, blah, blah. An amazing podcast called Diary of a CEO. And he's got this deck called Conversation Cards from the Diary of a CEO. And, you know, that deck links back to a video. You know, it sounds very like Deckible, right? But it's just a card deck. And these people have all recognized it. And every single one of these people have sold out multiple times when their deck has been launched. And they've done multiple print runs. So we know there are going to be more big names bringing their card decks to the card deck world, right? So we're all in at the early stages of a very big transition to card decks and digital card decks as we move forward. So let's have a look at the roadmap for Deckible. And we have this, what I call it 3 cohort thinking. And why do I call it that? Well, because if we take 10,000 people and join Deckible from December the 1st with trials, those people have a certain experience with Deckible. And from that release, you'll be able to trial any deck for free for 3 days and then choose to buy your deck or not, right? 3 months later, we're going to bring out challenges. And challenges is when you basically use a deck to do a 30-day challenge or a 7-day challenge or a 100-day challenge. We've all done challenges, right? And decks are just wonderful for that. You can use Deckible already to do a challenge, but in the next release, it will send you the card on the first day. Here's your card for the first day of your challenge. Here's the card for your second day of the challenge, right? So your phone will alert you and prompt you to keep up with your challenge. What's wonderful about challenges is they involve other people. Other people join in and join your challenge, right? So it makes a lot of sense. And then the third thing, 3 months after that, is we're going to add membership decks. And these are decks that you pay per month to access. And this is for creators who want to create and build a community around their deck. So basically, people will pay per month to be part of your community, to access the deck and to get other bonus content, maybe a monthly Zoom call, all integrated with that experience. So these 3 things, trials, challenges, and membership decks, we think are very exciting. And we know they're going to drive the growth of Deckible for the next 6 to 9 months. And we have other ideas beyond that. But just, you know, we just know Deckible is getting better and better. So that's our strategy for a product release. Website update. You can go check out the website. It's live now. New storyline. We're very much focused around calling Deckible a daily practice toolkit because that's what people do with it. They come to Deckible every day, draw a card, reflect on it, set an affirmation, whether it's work-based or personal wellness growth-based. All of this works within that framework. So yeah, go check out the new website. And then some more details on trials. You know, the whole idea of trials is to help you reach a bigger audience. And if you think about the price of some decks these days, plus the price of shipping to ship somewhere around the world, somebody has got to really know that they love your deck before they drop the price of the deck plus shipping and plus the inconvenience of waiting. So now they can actually trial your deck for free, use it on Deckible for 3 days. Then if they want to buy the digital deck, or there's the button there to link to your website to buy the printed deck, right? But now they actually know what they're buying. So I think that's going to really help. So we know that's going to drive up engagement. It's going to drive to more sales on Deckible. And we've had the last 2 months have got better and better on Deckible. We've had the best sales months to date. And we're not really doing anything special to promote that at this point. It's just because Deckible is maturing and more people have heard of us and there's more momentum. New people are arriving, new people experience Deckible for the first time, and then they actively promote it with their audience, and it's selling. Like, people who arrive at Deckible with new decks and start promoting are selling their decks in volume. And these people, it's all about turning up. The people who sell decks are the ones who promote and mention their decks and drive people to Deckible. If people are not promoting their decks, their sales are not in the same. I can literally just correlate that. Like, every time we see a deck sale, it's because that person is promoting their deck. And Deckible is adding to that, because we help people get found, but the experience is just trials is going to make that so much easier. And we're gonna there's some throttling in there. We're only going to give people so many credits. Otherwise, people could literally trial a deck a day for 3 years and never buy a deck. So that's not really our intention. So you will get something like 10 credits or 5 credits. We haven't quite decided yet. And every time you use a credit, your number of credits goes down. But every time you buy a deck, your credits go back up. So so you can, as long as people are buying some decks, you can healthily test lots of decks, and we'll reward people with other things along the way, other behaviors to get more credits if we like as well. So lots of options there. So that the trials are going to be 3 days. I've mentioned this, yeah, and yeah, I've told you all of that. Okay, it's good. And then basically we're creating something new called a creator zone, which is like Google Analytics for decks. So with your deck, you'll be able to see how many times it's been viewed, how many trials you've had, how many trials have started, how many trials have completed, and what sales you've got. And it's all very simple dashboard that shows you all of that information. And as I think I mentioned earlier, but from next quarter, we're going to pay out automatically from via bank accounts rather than using PayPal. So that's progress too. And then just beyond that, I think you guys mostly all know this, so this is nothing really too much has changed here. So I won't dive into the full demo of this, but the whole idea of Deckible is that we haven't just digitized a deck, we've created a workflow so you can explore your cards, you can journal on those cards, you can meditate on those cards. Random has been a really important part of Deckible. So we've made a big deal out of, we call it quick draw. So you can get 1, 2, or 3 cards at random in your quick draw. So that's the most common use case of card decks, is just drawing a card for the day, right? So Deckible does that really well. We've obviously got shuffling, we've got card sorting, we've got flipping. In case you're unaware, Deckible has you can have more than 2 sides to a digital deck. So we can flip to the guidebook. We can flip to more information, not just packing all that information on the first 2 sides of the card. And we can have audio and video. So you can play the audio and play the video inside Deckible. And that experience is getting better and better. Now, if you drag a card onto the card deck, onto the canvas, and it's got audio, it plays automatically. It's really slick. And we're going to do the same for video. You're going to be able to see video cards on the canvas. And the video cards are going to reflect whether it's a short or like a TikTok size, portrait video, or the typical YouTube, which is a landscape, right? And you just have a canvas of those card objects. Yeah, so that's cool. And here's an example of a card with a guidebook. So back of the card, face of the card, guidebook. And you don't have to have a single-sided guidebook. You can have a multi-sided guidebook too. So. And then spreads, you can design your own spreads. And these are examples of what we have, but you can create your own, literally choose as many cards as you want and arrange them and size them and rotate them and stack them however you want. And you can add in the questions and the prompts so you get the full experience. And then basically in Deckible, you pick a deck, pick a spread, and choose some cards, and then you get the meaning. And that's really the sort of full scope of Deckible end to end. And then the last piece is alerts and reminders, which haven't been in the product till now, but basically with trials, we will have alerts and reminders. So that's really exciting. I think it's phenomenal that I see people using Deckible every day, and they do it without a reminder, right? Because we haven't got those reminders integrated. But moving forward, if you want to, you can set up reminders to call you to go and draw a card, to meditate and journal. So that, I think, is going to drive up usage. But it's very healthy that people have managed. You know, there are some people who've meditated for 300 plus days in a row on Deckible, and that's because they're committed to that. They're creating their own importance around their wellness rituals, which I think is wonderful. So, yeah, so that's you know, where we're at. And you know, I mentioned if you're a deck creator, then you know we would really appreciate and value if you do know other creators, if you can bring them to Deckible. You know, if you're just a deck lover and there's a deck you love, you wish was on Deckible, write to the creator and, you know, say, hey, you know, I'd love to have your deck on Deckible. I use it every day. You know, the moment I leave it at home, right? So that would be great, much appreciated. And I think that's really all I've got to say, other than we can dive into a Q&A at this point.
All right, I'll ask you to stop sharing. So thank you so much. That was great. I'm so excited for trials, challenges, and membership decks. I've got plans for for the challenges and memberships. And I think giving people a trial, it's like, you know, when you can go look at a book or a deck before you buy it, you know, and get the experience. So thank you so much. I'm actually going to stop the recording and then we'll just have the Q&A separate to that. So thank you, Nick. And I will put all details under the video.